Welcome back to Smart Life. I'm Dr. Gina. For some of us, the holidays are dreadful. We hate the idea of having to put up with Uncle Roger again this year. He's always such a Scrooge, keeps everything negative. Or there's Aunt Matilda, who won't stop talking about her bodily functions. Do we really need that when we're trying to keep the holidays holy? How do you deal with those difficult relatives? Well, psychologist Derek Schwartz is here to help us. Dr. Schwartz, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you here at Smart Life. You know, so many of us are dealing with difficult relatives this time of year. Is there a trick? Do you just say no, you won't be with them, or do you go and try to make the best of it and end up, sometimes in some cases, ruining what can be a very special time of year for families?
Well, the beginning of all of this starts with you and with your spouse or your own immediate family and kind of going outward. So to me, realistic expectations are very important to start with. So to discuss these, issues, so-and-so is going to be like this, so-and-so is going to be like that, is a good place to start. To me, the big picture is all about, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Especially during the holiday seasons, so things like pride and ego and things like that can get in the way, especially these things of...
And expectation, it sounds like you're saying.
Expectations. Yeah. And there's something called fortune teller error that we do a lot of times where, because of the 879 other times that we had this happen, that it's going to happen again and we're going to have a terrible time and this and that, but it ends up being you that creates the terrible time. So the fortune teller error is where we, in our minds, not only is it going to be a bad experience, it's already done and that's going to be the way it is.
So how do you keep low expectations, doctor, without really, I guess, making that, I hate to use the word social constructionist, and I said we won't go wonky on them, and we just did, but without really creating that reality because of those expectations. That's a tricky little
thing.
Line to walk,
You gotta manage your emotions. It's really what it is. You check your emotions at the door, let her have her way, she can talk about her bodily functions and that, keep the smile on. None of this is easy. And again, people, every unit, everybody, even your own immediate family has its own world of way of behaving. And then everybody else brings in their own way. So to them, it's just fine to talk about things like that for you and your immediate family.
And part of it really is, don't you think, like looking at this relative, regardless how distant, and thinking, I'm really related to that person. Like that reflects badly on our own personal schema, don't you think?
Absolutely.
I mean, and that's maybe what bothers us so much about it, and why it's so hard to keep the emotions out of it.
Absolutely. And 99% of the time, they're not bad people.
Right.
You get upset because they have a different way of seeing things, and you get in a bunch and your fists tighten and this and that, and you go like this all the time because so-and-so is doing this. And you got to be flexible. And so what happens is, because we want the holidays to happen a certain way, and it's not going that way, we get all uptight.
Yeah. I think varying degrees of religion in the holidays, even different faiths among family members can be an issue. The other sort of red flags, I think, are just different cultural differaners. You know, if you have different cultural backgrounds that are used to celebrating it one way or another, is one of the tricks to just keep it short? Keep it short. Keep those visits on. Does it have to be all day long on Christmas Day or all evening long on Christmas Eve with Uncle Harry drinking a little bit too much? You know, does it have? Can we just say, hey, we're going to keep this to 2 hours and we're out of there?
Well, that is part of the picking and choosing the battles, because you have some family members that may want it. It's just their tradition, as they call it. You know,
for you to be there the whole day.
Exactly.
They want to own you.
So. And you might have that assertiveness to say, you know what, and you recognize the fact that there are those people that want the marathon Christmas, and just to recognize that first and say, hey, I know you guys, it's traditional, I have this and this and that, but this year, why don't we just cut it a little short? We get our time in, and I don't want me to be a pain in the butt here, but this is what I'm thinking. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're all adults,
that's right.
should be able to manage your own time there. I think that's one of the keys
managing
as well.
time. That's a good way to.
Exactly. All right, and I want to get to this whole concept of how far do we take the Santa Claus concept with children, because at a certain point, their perspective on all of that is going to change, and then they're going to look back at you and be like, why the lies? What is your perspective on all of that?
the Santa
I know
Claus
it's tough,
lies.
yeah.
And you know, some of us consider this like a rite of passage where you go
Sure.
when you're a kid, and then all of a sudden you find out, and then you know if the other kids are lagging, what, you believe in Santa? Now, the whole thing, the word lying troubles me a little bit because the thing about Santa, it's chronic. It's every year. It's not like you can say a white lie. It continues, so you have to continue and continue to lie
It's
every
more
year.
like a pathological lie. You know what I'm
Exactly.
teasing?
Not
Yeah.
to get into the psychobabble here, but it's a pathological lie from the parents, and they'll do anything to protect it,
Yeah.
you know, to keep it going. So you have to figure out, do I want to keep the magic going with my son or my daughter, and they can believe in Santa and this and that, and he could do the Dear Santa letters and all this other stuff. But, you know, bottom line, as far as I'm concerned, if you just look at it from a strategy, I just think the line gets messy over time.
Is there an age that you think?
Oh, an age. You know, once they kind of get it, they kind of can interact and they seem curious. And again, that could, you know, it's specific to each child, but maybe, you know, 4 or 5 years old, you know, they start to, and then now with technology, they know the you know, the smartphone. They know the history of St. Nicholas and this and that. And they may know more about the history of Santa Claus than you do. So and so when that comes up, the way I kind of look at it is, if I were to have just a flat out way of looking at this is, in my opinion, you let them kind of get the idea of Santa Claus and learn through social media and this and that, and then you kind of see how that kind of develops. And then they start to get curious, and then maybe that would be where you pull the trigger and say, you know, Santa, we pretend about Santa. He's like Superman. He's like a superhero. We believe in him. But there's a difference between pretending and believing.
Wow,
See,
that's a great point. That's a great point. I like that. And the other thing I kind of do is I'll start with my a little bit older ones. I'll just start kind of, you know, Santa, Santa, we got to put the cookies out for Santa.
Yeah,
so that
I
they
see your
kind of know
point.
that that's kind of my, and we don't do the presents and stuff from Santa.
Yeah.
Santa might do a stocking or something, but he's not the focus of our holiday, because we
Right.
do want to keep it about the real meaning.
Absolutely, and there are actually times with that lying thing where kids can feel very betrayed by their hero, Santa, and all of a sudden it's not true. And here you're telling them lying is bad, and all of a sudden you find out that you know, there's this big lie about Santa. He really doesn't exist, and that could be very troublesome. Not that you go that road, but that could be a problem when you could say, well, you know, is it pretend we like the Easter Bunny, or you know?
I thought the Superman analogy was
Superman,
awesome.
yeah.
And the history. I think you can very quickly point to the spirit of the history of
that
someone
was-
who just
absolutely.
goes and gives and
Yes.
loves to bless. Keeping, of course, those faith components really,
Absolutely.
really central.
Absolutely.
One last question I want to
Sure.
get to. I really, really have trouble remembering from year to year what my New Year's resolution was. And I found out when I did my little sample survey this morning here at Money Biz Life that I'm not alone in that. Most people forgot what their resolution was last year. And then you have the whole thing of sort of, you know, losing yourself in a goal, really being defeated in that goal, which is not good for building future goals. Do you recommend people do a New Year's resolution at all if they tend to forget them? And what are the tricks really of remembering them? And you've got 2 minutes.
Sure. Oh, thank you. 2 minutes. Well, again, like I mentioned a moment ago about you know, families and the holiday thing, but realistic expectations, we always overshoot. We always, as human beings, we tend to overshoot. Write it down, make it realistic, and then keep on top of it. You mentioned accountability earlier, and that's another thing. You know, how do you keep it going, whether it's written or with another person, another family? Let's do this together with the support of another person. And that's one way. And again, so the combination of being realistic and then altering it during the process, and that's a big one too. But using other people, you know, gyms, accountability to keep yourself on track. That's
And
really,
that simplicity, I think,
Simplicity
that the two
also.
ladies, Andy and Shani in our office, they both kept it very simple. And I'm still just laughing at Andy's, wear more eyeliner. That's so simple. And if that's your goal, then you've accomplished it. And then you can build on it and go, hey, you know, probably whatever I do this year, I'm going to remember it. And I might even be successful at it. But making it something massive, like just losing weight, there are so many factors that go into that those are harder to keep, aren't they?
There's a difference between saying, I'm going to lose weight and I'm going to feel well, which is this broad kind of thing,
Yeah.
versus I'm going to lose
I'm gonna wear eyeliner.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
that.
There you go.
I thought
Perfect.
that was brilliant. Thank you
Perfect.
so much. I appreciate you,
good
Dr.
being here.
Schwartz, being
Thank
here
you.
with us. And we'll hope for some healthy and healing holidays this year. Next, we're going to talk to the most popular person in the Christmas season. That is Santa. Stuart Scott is the author of the book Diary of a Mall Santa, and he's going to give us the inside scoop on what it's like to put on that suit and head to the mall. That's up next on Smart Life. We're going to get to all of your Christmas questions too, so get them ready. You can send those, to moneybizlife.com. Go to the Smart Life page, put your question right there, and we'll be sure and get to it on today's show. You stay with us.